Governor Neil Abercrombie. He's been a leader in Hawaii for many, many years. It's truly an honor to sit down with the governor of Hawaii and learn from his experience and see what kind of advice he would give to someone starting out.
The question is whether people can have confidence in the future. For certainly within my memory, my political memory, this is the first time in which there has been serious questioning as to whether the generations upcoming would be better, would have more opportunities, would succeed in a measurable way, economically, socially, psychologically, emotionally, more than the generation previous. That each generation sacrificed, committed itself to the next generation, and yet, as a result of the combination of recession and increasing cynicism and skepticism in a political context, nationally and worldwide. And I said so. I wrote it down. I put it out there. I campaigned on something specific, not slogans, a detailed, multi-paged plan in agriculture and energy and education, prisons. We were exporting dollars for oil, exporting dollars for food, exporting dollars to house prisoners on the mainland. That kind of destruction of our community, our sense that we were helpless in the face of globalized forces. I wanted to change that. I said we could. And what I found very, very interesting in terms of the challenge that you say, or that I'm commenting on now, was that people responded to it. They weren't cynical. They may have been skeptical. And so we came to grips then with the challenge of confidence. The best advice, I don't know about it, advice, I think if I made some observations that might prove useful to them, I would say immerse yourself in your education. Now that may sound like a complete cornball cliche, but and seem very, very obvious. But I've discovered in my life, certainly my political life, it's the obvious you need to do over and say and act on over and over again, because it's the obvious you tend to forget first and take most for granted. So you say education. Well, what's that mean? It means reflection, critical thinking, and you need to immerse yourself in the reading and the observations of others. That gives you an opportunity to engage in that kind of self-reflection, have a clear idea of what it is that you want to accomplish, and then don't be a victim. Don't stand there and lament the fact that there's all these forces operating out there that seem beyond your individual control. I mentioned before in the conversation this advent of privatism at the expense of individualism. An individual recognizes that there's a community out there, and that you understand yourself and gear yourself towards your relationship to those around you. Now, when that gets privatized, when you become solipsistic, when you revolve around yourself, that's when you get the hedge fund problems. That's when you get the selfishness and the self-regard that eliminates any sense of responsibility to your community. The idea in Hawaiian of kuleana, your responsibility. That responsibility goes out. It's not that everybody owes you, but rather you owe the opportunity, your opportunities rather, to the fact that the community has provided that. Everybody has a role here in Hawaii. And so my advice is to pay attention to the aloha spirit, pay attention to the Hawaiian values that inform and instruct all of us regardless of our background. Transform oneself and transform one's ambitions and perspective into a 21st century version of that. Don't be victimized by the past. Utilize your understanding of the past to have a clear idea of where you are now, so that you can see even more clearly where you want to go in the future. So I think if you utilize and examine and come to a conclusion about what abilities and capacities you do have, then here in Hawaii, I think you'll be encouraged to make best use of them. Finally, with regard to public life and advice or counsel, I think a couple of things I'd say. First, rule probably, never expect gratitude. If you can't do something for its inherent value, I mentioned kuleana before, your responsibility. You shouldn't expect gratitude for exercising and meeting your responsibilities. That's something that you should do. That defines you. That tells us about you as a person, about your character. So never expect gratitude. That's rule one. The second rule is never forget rule number one, right? And the third thing I would say is there's only one thing worse in politics, maybe in life. One thing worse than being wrong, and that's being right. If you're wrong, people will forgive you a lot of the times. If you're right, people seldom forgive you. It means you had to take a leadership position, and it's not always going to be easy. I got asked just the other day, well, a lot of the things that you do are unpopular, or that you've said, or the positions you've taken. And my response is, I didn't do it to be popular. I'd certainly like it if everybody agreed with me, but as a leader, your responsibility is to face the choices and make the decisions that are the right decisions for your community, your families, your state, and let events then show whether your judgment proved correct or not.